you want to go have family time?
I'm going to go over a couple things here. The first one is I'm going to show you how to use the 3D editor to create and debug scripts quickly and easily, and you can have a instant feedback on what's working and what's not working. The reason why I'm starting this today is there was a question on OpenDayZ about a self-actions, FN self-actions, and it doesn't seem to work. And the reason is that when you have an action, suppose like gather meat, s underscore gather meat, if you don't set it to a value initially, it will not be tested. So if you can test like this right here, let's take a look at this. If I do test var is less than 0, and it's going to show a hint box if it's less than 0, otherwise it's going to show greater than 0. So if we don't set test var, there will be no output whatsoever, because test var is not equal to anything. And I'll show you that right here on the editor. Let's exit out here and I'll show you the first thing we do, how to use the editor. When you're at this main screen, if you hold down the control and press E, and it's best if you use Proving Grounds because it loads the quickest. And once you're in here, what you do is you create a center, which is a side, blue force. You create a group. Every player is part of a group, every AI, center west, and you create a unit. And just anyone. And you need to have player, so it's player and not AI. And you need to have playable. Now I can hit preview, and here I am. Okay, so now what I do to test my code is there's a handy little trigger. If you create a trigger, and it's right here, there's a handy little trigger, activation. Normally we're accustomed by triggers having circles where, okay, here we got a trigger over top of this gas station. When I walk into the gas station, it's going to activate. Well, there's another one. It's called activation by radioAlpha. And you have radioAlpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. You have, look at all them, radio. And those are on your communications menu. So I'll show you how that works. radioAlpha. And we want it to repeat repeatedly so that we can do it all the time. We hit OK. It shows up there. That circle doesn't mean anything. That's not going to activate, whether that's just there so you can see it. Now when I hit preview, if I hit 0, it pulls up the communications menu. And if you take a look down in the bottom, radio is 0 again. So I hit 0 again, and there's radioAlpha. We've created a trigger. Trigger is activated, but of course we didn't have any code for it to do anything. So I can keep doing this again and again. And if I want more than one bit of code, I could do activate by radio, Bravo, Charlie, whatever. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this code that I created that I want to test. I'm going to copy it. I go over here to the trigger and the activation expression. This is what occurs when you activate the trigger. So whether it was a regular trigger that when I come into this area, or when I activate it by calling radioAlpha. And I just hit Shift Insert. There it is. Preview. Then 001 alpha. Again, nothing happens. Is it working? Doesn't seem to be, does it? But that's because, as I had explained to you, here at the beginning, test var is not equal to anything. It is a null value. It has no value. So I can compare it to less than 0, and it's not going. Nothing's going to happen. So now if I set test var to be equals 1, and you have to use valid code, so I use test var equals 1 semicolon, hit OK. Preview 001. There's my hint. Test var is greater than 0. Hit escape, edit in 2D, edit the trigger. Now let's set it to -1. Preview 001. Test var is less than 0. So now you can see that our code does work. And this is an easy way. You can put in whatever kind of code you want, spawn things, do whatever you want to do, and you see immediate results. You don't have to start a server. You don't have to test it on this live server or a test server, it's right here in that trigger, and you can put whatever code you want in there. And if you wanted to, if it was really long code, I could save this as a file and put it in the folder. I would have to save. If I save this, I save it up in here as a export to single missions. Give it a name, you know, my test, whatever. And then I could save this file up in there, folder, and instead of all this code, I could put exec vm test.sqf, and it would execute the whole file. So there you go. You've learned two things. You've learned how to create and test code in the 3D editor to have immediate results. We were using a hint box to tell us, you know, what was working and what wasn't working. And you've also learned that if you don't assign a variable a value, you cannot compare it to a number.